Hi, everyone, and welcome to Season 4 of Rising Stories podcast. I'm Corrine Sandifer, your host. And before we begin, I want to share that today's sponsor is Rakuten. Rakuten is your go-to shopping destination to earn cash back from over 2,500 stores like Macy's, Amazon, Sephora, Walmart, and so much more. All you have to do is shop online like you normally do. You can shop online and you'll just see the pop-up asking you if you would like to connect to Rakuten. It's that easy. And so if you join today for free, you can join for free with the link provided in the show notes. And Rising Stories podcast will give you a cash bonus to get you started. So then every 3 months, you'll get a big fat check in the mail or a PayPal payment just for shopping online like you normally do. So make sure you sign up with the links provided. For this season, as you know, I am interviewing some powerful leaders from around the world. So today I am talking with Mary Dove, a licensed psychotherapist who has a private practice in New York City and also provides psychotherapy at the Juilliard School Counseling Services. She's also the founder of Lean In New York City with over 6,000 members. Mary is also the author of Changemakers, a portrait and story collaborative project highlighting women. And I can't wait for you guys to hear her stories. Thanks so much for coming on, Mary. Hey.
Hi. It's so nice to be here. It's such a privilege to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation today.
Thanks, Mary. Thanks for coming on. Love it. Love it. So tell me, I'm so curious to hear how you got into psychotherapy, how you became the Lean In leader, because you are the founder. So you founded the Lean In Circle, but I want to hear your journey to getting to be the Lean In founder in New York City and just some of the things that you've been doing. I'm just so fascinated to hear how you arrived to where you are.
Oh, it's been an exciting journey. I mean, honestly, it actually started at 9. Is when I first got interested in sort of women's issues, believe it or not. I went to Catholic schools when I was little, and I come from a big family. And my mother brought us to the nun's house to drop some things off and to bring to the nuns. And at 9 years old, I walked in there, and there was 13 nuns with a black and white TV in a really small house. And then she brought me to the priest house, and there was 2 priests in a really big house with a color TV. And at 9 years old, you really think about, why don't the nuns live in the big house? So I think for me, that question has always been, why don't we have nuns? I mean, why do we have women? Why don't we have women in the big house? Why don't we have women in the White House? I think is what it is today.
Wow. What an amazing story. I can imagine you're 9 years old and you're walking in and you must have been very observant as a young child, just very kind of looking at that. That is very interesting that you were like, why are they in the small house and there's 2 people in a big house? Yeah. Wow.
And I think,
Sorry. Go ahead.
No, and I think for me, because I was 9 years old, the color TV really kind of stood out. But that's right. I kept on thinking, because you're so practical at 9, you're like, well, there's more people here. They should be in the bigger space.
Yeah. Now, how did that evolve into throughout your years? Anything else happen in high school, and did you start seeing what was happening with women in society?
So it's interesting. I did a series of projects up until Lean In. I did a poetry project with women. I also did a fundraising project for a woman I had met when I was traveling in India when I was in my 20s. But I think Lean In is where it really kind of skyrocketed. I was living in Spain at the time. My ex-husband had a job there. And I saw Cheryl's video. And I was just so inspired. And when I got back to New York, I knew she was doing a book signing, so I went and I had her sign my book, and I was really excited. And I had posted on LinkedIn that week just one sentence that said, I'm starting a circle in New York, thinking maybe 8 women would reach out to me. Well, in 2.5 days, 110 women reached out to me. We were So I
Wow.
called Lean In. I actually sent them an email. I said, I think this is a little bigger than like your normal circles. Like, what should I do? And I actually tried to shut it down. I actually wrote out and I said, I don't think I can fit you all in my office. Like, and one of my first circle leaders wrote back and said, New York City's too big to have a community that small. Isn't this your time to lean in? And I was like, oh gosh, I guess it is. My
Wow.
first career was in sales and marketing. And so I ended up finding a partner within a week. And we ended up having our first event, which had over like 110 women come, and we set up circles. And that was in 2013. It was a month after the book came out. So we were the first chapter in the country, actually in the world.
Wow. Yes.
Yeah, so since that time, we've been operating for 7 years. We've had over 30 speaker events, and we've had, just numerous women leaders come and really provide education and support. And we've just had an active community. So it went from 110 for the first event, and it's grown to 6,000. And at that first event, we had the Associated Press, and they did an article on
Ah.
us, which was like amazing. But that got picked up on the wire. So our circle in New York was reported in Lebanon and in Italy and just all over the world. So that was really exciting.
That's amazing. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Wow. I'd heard of, oh, Mary Dove from New York, Mary Dove from New York City. I'm like, I got to meet her. So you and I met at one of the conferences, the regional leader conferences, and I was like, wow, and I think at that time you had several thousand members and several circles. And so how do you conduct, or how did you start? Because you can't, that is a big, uh, would be a huge venue that probably New York City doesn't have. So how did you divide them into circles or?
So we were really lucky because the first 3 years that we were in operation, we had a partner that was the co-working space. They
Oh,
actually
okay.
allowed us to do these monthly events, which was amazing. And then we would break everybody down into circles. So our first meeting, we actually did it by geography because we didn't know sort of how to do it. And then we sort of encouraged women to start circles on their own that were like a subject that they wanted or to meet other women. So then we had an entrepreneurial circle, a mid-career circle, but that was kind of, it organically came from the community. We kind of reached out during these events and saying, if you want to start a circle that's really important to you, you start it and we'll promote it through the community. So so
Yeah.
there was a shift. Yeah.
Wow. That's awesome. Tell me what's important to the women of New York, the women who want to lean in? What's different between them and I guess other cities?
I think New York, because so many people come from other places, you don't have an immediate network. So I think coming in and having a sense of community, because people come from all over the world to live in New York City. So I think that
Mhm.
was really important and an important part of our story, which I didn't realize until later. So I think and I've actually had people who were Lean In members in other parts of the world move to New York and then join our community.
Okay, yeah. And I believe that that's kind of what happened with my circle as well. I started a small circle in my suburb of Nashville, and it just grew and grew. And then we became Lean In Tennessee, well, Lean In Nashville, and then Lean In Tennessee with the chapter, and then now a network. But our city just started booming, and a lot of people wanted to get. It was almost like when you go to we got just a huge amount of new members, and so did all these other women's organizations around town. And it was sort of like when you go to a college, and you like join all these clubs, and then you end up saying, I like this club best. So that was what was happening in Nashville. It was so great to see everyone and connect everyone to each other. And my particular circle, what I love about the women in Nashville is they are so eager to, the seasoned, more experienced and older women are so eager to mentor kind of organically and just be there for the younger generation, which is so beautiful to watch. And it happens at every meeting for any, any topic. There's always like, oh, I can talk to you about so and so, or you need to meet so and so because they will help you. And so it's just a great organization to be a part of, and to give each other sort of a hand up, and more tools in your career bag to help you move up. So that's one of the things that I love about Lean In, and my particular group, Lean In. So here in Nashville. So I suppose it's that way with yours as well.
It is. And I think also there's all these friendships that develop, which I think is really lovely. So I think that there's been like a lot of long-term friendships that have come from the community as well.
Yeah. Well, tell me more about your book, The Change Makers.
So doing the Lean In work, I just got really inspired because I had met so many extraordinary women, and they were coming and meeting. So I actually rented buses to go to the first Women's March in DC, and we brought 110 members. And we were really lucky because CNN called me 2 days before the march and said, "Do you have extra seats?" I said, "Sure," because I had actually saved them just in case the press called. So CNN was on our bus. Bryn Gingras, who was the CNN correspondent, actually did a live feed from our bus. And she's actually one of the women that we profile in the book. So we took 33 women, and I worked with a collaborative team, the photographers, Gina Combo, and I worked with the writing team, which was Camille Sardina and Tara Harpez. And we captured these women's stories and we profiled them. And so Julian Cassidy is in the book.
Love Julian.
Yeah, we're profiling tradeswomen, which is really important in the work that she does. We have the executive director of the ACLU in the book, which is also really awesome. So it was just really exciting to be able to capture all these women's stories. And my intent of that book was to show a new picture of leadership. So we partnered with Hudson Guild's youth organization and did a series of events and also an exhibition so that they can meet our change makers and be inspired.
Wow. And the faces of leaderships and leaders, and even just women leaning in is, they're leaning in every industry. And I know Julian is in the trades industry. And so I love that you're highlighting all these different women. That's awesome.
And one of the women that I was just so privileged to have interviewed as well as Brenda Buffalino, who is 83 years old and has been a performer from a very, very young age. And she's a tap dancer. And, her interview was amazing because she said, "I'm not a dancer. That's how I move through the world." And she's done a few talks for our youth organization about mastery because she's been actually dancing for 70 years. So, wow. Yeah, that's really exciting.
Fascinating. So fascinating. So tell me, how did you become a psychotherapist? And I do want to talk a little bit more, if you'd shed the light on, my listeners. And I know I've talked with people, they have therapists, there are counselors, and then there are psychotherapists. What's the difference?
So I'm a licensed professional. So I went and got my master's, and I've done clinical training in both Gestalt and other areas. I'm studying narrative therapy right now. So I'm a licensed professional that provides psychotherapy services. Yeah.
Wow. That's awesome. How did you get started in that?
So it was really interesting. I had actually been I had a corporate job in sales and marketing. And I used to meet with all these CEOs, and they would just open up to me. And I thought, well, maybe I'm not in the right field, right? And it's something I always had a desire to do it, but I was like, and when my son was born, I said, this is the time. If this is what I want to do, I should
to make a change.
So I actually went back to school and got my master's degree and then my clinical training. So, and it's been wonderful. I love what I do, and it's just wonderful to work with the clients that I work with. And I think especially at a time like this, it's really important for people to get the support that they need, because often people will feel isolated. And there's a collective anxiety and grief that's occurring. So like to just make space for that and to get the support that you
Mm-hmm.
need.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. And so who is your typical client? Are they professionals, or are they just people, or do you work with professionals who need a boost in leadership? You're saying that CEOs were coming to you and talking with, sharing their stories with you, sharing their life with you.
It's interesting. So I work at the Juilliard School, which is a conservatory. So actually most of my clients are in the arts. So I work
Oh, okay.
with musicians and playwrights, and in my private practice, I also have, performers and actors and filmmakers.
Oh, nice. Yeah. I love being in New York City. In fact, I have to tell this crazy story because we met in California at the Regional Leaders Conference, and I also met Julian. And so when I came into New York, for my son was running at the Armory, a indoor track meet, and I said, "Oh, I need to meet up with my friend Mary and Julian." So I called you guys, and y'all graciously moved your lunch, or no, your dinner to, and I think it was like on a Friday night too. And of course, that was my second time in New York City, and I was still kind of learning the lay of the land, so to speak, and knowing that you can walk places too. So from my hotel to the place that you guys had chosen to eat, that y'all switched around so I could join y'all. I was like, oh, I'd love to have dinner with y'all. So it was about a mile, and I thought, I was running, 2-3 miles a day, whatever. And I thought, I'll just walk a mile, and I've got comfortable shoes. So I did. But I also was using my phone to navigate. Well, I think about 2 blocks away, my phone just died. And I was like, I can't call an Uber. I can't call Mary and tell her I'm late. I can't do anything. And I was like, what am I going to do? Luckily, I do carry around my charger with me when I'm on out of town, so I carry it in my purse. So I was able to sneak into a hotel and charge my phone for a bit, and then I finally made it. And y'all were so sweet. Y'all were sitting there, and I was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I was like 30 minutes late." And then I had to get back to the Armory. It was a mess. It was such a crazy evening. Even trying to get an Uber in New York City was crazy for me, because they said, we'll go south and we'll pick you up at between, this block and this block. I'm like, I don't know where I am. How do I do that? That's why I want you to come to me. But it was crazy. I made it. I made it just in time with just 2 minutes to spare. But how do you like living in New York City? And because you live in the city,
Yeah.
right?
So first thing, I had such a wonderful time that night, and I was thinking about you because I was like, because New York's daunting, right? When you get there, I'm like, I always feel like, oh my gosh, right? Because there's so much going on. So I actually live in Brooklyn, which looks a little like Sesame Street. I mean,
Oh,
it's
love
really
it.
great. But I lived in Manhattan for years, which is where you were walking. Um,
Yes.
New York's a special place. Like, not everybody can live there. I feel like
Yeah.
it's like just such a great cultural center. And I always felt like when I was single, like, before I had my son, I always thought, well, I have my apartment. That's like my bedroom, but the city's my living room. That's how most
Yes.
people feel in New York. But yeah, I love New York. It's a really special place. And, I've seen New York go through a lot of different things, right? It's, because it's a very exciting
Yeah.
city, but there's people don't realize that every single neighborhood is like a village, and they're all connected. So it's special. Like,
Mm.
your dry cleaner, all of the people that like all the shops that you go to, everybody there.
That's what makes it a small town feel, or a smaller community village. Yeah, I remember a friend of mine that moved there, and they said the advice they gave him was find your bar or your coffee shop or your little diner, and frequent that, and just stay there, and so that you can find that community.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because you become a local. Like everybody knows you at that diner or that restaurant. Yeah.
So good. Yeah, that's great. We don't have that here in Nashville. I live in a suburb of Nashville, and it's just so disconnected. So
Yeah.
you have something we don't even
I mean,
have.
I just feel like you're like a music. I mean, you're the music capital.
We are. And it's just it's so great to have music everywhere. I mean, we literally have music everywhere. We have it whenever we have our marathons, there's music, a band on every corner as you're running. I mean, it's just everywhere. It's in our airports, it's everywhere on the side streets. And yeah, I do love that part. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, I saw
Well,
so much great music when I was there. It was just.
yeah. You need to come
I have to
back.
come back.
Um, you need to come back and visit. So, Mary, tell me, what is the best advice you've ever received, either like a business advice or just a kind of a personal development growth advice?
So when I was in my 20s, I was the only woman on a sales team. And my boss was really rough on me, much more than he was to my fellow colleagues. And I actually remember calling my dad. I called my father and I was crying. And I was like, at this time I had been like a top sales performer. I had been ranked like the top 100 for like 3 years in a row of a company with 60,000 employees. So I called my father and I said, Dad, this guy's being so hard on me. And I was crying. And he's like, okay, don't cry in front of him. You're the only woman on that team. He said, no, you're really good at what you do. So you go in there and you beat the pants off of him and you sell like crazy. And he said, and then try to get another boss.
Good
But really
advice.
great.
Good advice. Yeah. Don't cry in front of them. And yep. Yeah. What good advice. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
And I don't know I think things are changing now where you can actually express yourself. But at that time, me being the only woman on the team, I didn't feel safe to do that.
Hmm. And I think men don't know what to do with that. I know that Cheryl talked about it in her book with Zuckerberg, and he's probably more, I guess, with it than most.
Mm-hmm.
Where, what do you do with that?
Yeah.
But it's an emotion, and we are women, and we don't want to change being women. We just want the equality part.
That's right. We just want an even playing field.
Yeah, we don't want to fit into your puzzle piece. We want you to rearrange the puzzle so it fits our piece as well. So yeah. Well, tell me what 3 things are you loving these days? Or maybe you're reading a special book or something that you're loving.
So I'm actually reading Jack Kornfield's No Time Like the Present. It was a really great book. I'm actually loving because my son is going to college next year. We'll have to see what happens with all of this.
Mm-hmm.
I think that for me has been the best part of this kind of shelter in place is that I get to spend time with him before he leaves. So
Oh, wonderful.
we've been trying to like make it more fun. He's a teenager, so I don't see him most of the day. But for dinner, he picks out all the music we're going to listen to at night, and that's really fun.
Nice.
Yeah, another thing is I'm just trying to kind of keep in shape and do like just a little routine every morning to just keep my,
Mm-hmm.
I do like actually a restorative yoga practice every morning, which has been awesome.
Oh, nice. Yeah. And if someone's listening to this 10 years later, we are going through, it's COVID and we are quarantined, and Mary's quarantined. I'm quarantined here in Nashville, and we are just, the schools are closed, and my son is home from college as well. And I'm able to see him every day, which is nice. It's a little bit of a bittersweet. The other day I took him to go empty out move everything back home from college, them knowing that they're not going to go back for the semester due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So it was bittersweet because, that's part of some things that were taken from them. They're the last part of their college semester, but thank goodness everyone is safe and healthy, so that's what's important. So yeah. Well, Mary, thanks so much for coming on, and don't forget people to go get her book, The Change Makers, and I'm excited to read that myself. And thanks so much again for coming on. I loved talking with you today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's really been so much fun.